It was so obvious that Mercedes had a difficult time racing this season. I mean, when they topped last year, it's not because of the drivers, it's something else. They need to find a solution for porpoising, or else they keep being the bottom of the grid. And at the bottom, they'll stay forever. Other teams have solved this already, so why haven't they? Before we give out their solution to that career-changing problem, you should ask, what on earth is porpoising anyway? You have to understand that to build the perfect racing car is to master ground effect. That means they must be directing force towards the road using the tyres in order to maximize speed and traction. If these things don't work together, then it results in a lot of unfortunate things, including porpoising. The term comes from the idea of a porpoise diving into the sea and then resurfacing over and over. And in racing, it has the similar meaning. In porpoising, both the car and driver unmistakably bounce up and down, and it's especially visible among the straights. This will result in the driver losing significant speed. What causes this to happen is the airflow through the tunnels in the underbody of the car. The airflow through these spaces must be uninterrupted, or else the Formula 1 drivers will go into a frenzy. When airflow is obstructed and resumed, and then again stopped and then resumed at a really fast rate due to the inefficient design or vehicle damage, it produces that noticeable bouncing effect. Porpoising keeps the car from going as fast as it could otherwise go. We may not see it because the cars are so fast, but we see the effects on the results of the race. Lewis Hamilton is the most affected by it. The 7-time world champion blames porpoising because he can't ever bring his Mercedes to the front of the grid this season. He calls it the worst characteristic I have ever experienced in a car. A few Formula 1 fans are questioning this though, because his teammate and Mercedes rookie has the same exact car, but he always finishes P5 and higher. Ferrari drivers Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz have experienced it too, but they aren't complaining much about it, unlike Sir Lewis. They basically solved this at the beginning of the season. That's why they're always 1-2 or 1-3. It took a while, but Mercedes finally understood what to do. They're leading the team differently, and it's finally driving the W13 to its full potential. It was so clear that they had solved the issue during the Spanish Grand Prix when George Russell outqualified the Red Bull Sergio Perez. That's the first time a Mercedes driver has made it into the first 2 rows of the grid this season. We may have expected this because they were definitely experimenting and testing out solutions during the Miami Grand Prix. The changes included a slot added to the outer edge of the floor and a new bib vane added to the keel in the middle of the car. The whole team thinks they've done well too. Mercedes technical director Mike Elliott says that these new parts definitely have settled the car down, and our favourite team principal Toto Wolff said that the team now understands the porpoising problem. They've noticed that the 2 drivers are much happier now. We also think that Lewis and George are finally back in their groove. Crew members think that they both show off body language that says feels like a car and drives a bit more like a racer car. We waited a long time for Mercedes to be back on top with the other big team. We finally got it, and we should probably get ready because Formula 1 is about to get a lot more exciting. George Russell must be so happy that this is happening. He waited his whole life, well maybe even his whole career, for a seat with Mercedes. He just left Williams when he transferred to the top team. Then the porpoising thing happened. He thinks that his current team finally found the solution, and he's thankful. George said that the car is now not fundamentally different through the corner, but just had more grip. He also mentioned that Mercedes must sacrifice a lot just to get that answer. Kudos for them for working through it. They must have felt a lot of pressure when everyone expected Lewis Hamilton to be on top. Like we said, George never left P5. What's surprising is that we saw how passionate he was about the sport and his car, that he tried everything he could to be in front. With his skills and the car's speed, even with porpoising, George became one of the best drivers in the first half of the season. The new Mercedes drivers had a few comments on the car. Toto Wolff revealed that George said that it finally felt like a Formula 1 car. Wow, it was that bad, huh? Checo Perez of Red Bull shared his thoughts too, saying it looked very costly. It indeed was, but you'll do everything to be number 1 again, wouldn't you? It's like an investment, and because of that, George finished 3rd during the Spanish Grand Prix. Sadly though, Lewis Hamilton lacked his teammates' consistency throughout the other weeks running, and trailed him in all of qualifying. He was still struggling with the car and was barely a tenth slower in Q3 that weekend. The world champion still applauded his team's work though. We don't have the bouncing in a straight line, which is a huge difference, he said. But we still have some bouncing in turn 3 and in turn 9. So we still have some porpoising, but the car is going in the right direction. so there's still more things to fix. But this is really a big step for the team once on the top. Lewis's performance during the Spanish Grand Prix gave Mercedes a sense of hope that they can join the championship fight this season. Maybe if he hadn't have collided with Kevin Magnussen at the start of the race and didn't puncture his tyres, he would have finished in a higher place. We will never know. He still claims that he's 100% confident in the team just because he saw this tiny victory. That's great, but he should also realise that the other teams are tens of points away from theirs. It's going to be impossible to keep up with the constructors' standards unless both of them always end up in front of the grid. Now I'm just waiting for the engineers, the aerodynamics, to come through with some more bits for us to progress, Lewis mentioned. The top teams, Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren, have had problems of their own, so perhaps Mercedes may have a chance with the trophy. There have been so many times that the drivers from these teams DNF'd this season. It is becoming a little bit worrisome. We wish all teams and all drivers get their pace back so we can enjoy the race without worrying about a single thing. There's still many races for this season and we can't wait to watch more of them.